Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
Yesterday, some of the papers reported something about an IMF forecast. And they were saying that it says IMF forecast Ghana's debt to rise to 53% of GDP by end of 2026. And the reason why this got a bit of analysts and industry watchers a bit concerned was that one of the main things that you've been trying to do as a government is to make sure that you spend within your means.
Yeah.
In fact, your policies, even look at the number of ministers, etc., all of these things are meant to do two things: fiscal consolidation.
Yes.
If I'm not generating more, I'm not going to spend more. You only spend more when you generate more.
Yes.
You took over when debt to GDP was hovering around 60-something, 61.8%. And you came and brought it down to some 40-something, 43% or so. Now, if we are now hearing that this trajectory is going to experience some kind of a reversal,
yes,
we have every cause to be concerned, shouldn't we?
Sure.
Let me read to you what has been captured on today's Ghana web, which was yesterday's Ghana web, and it was in several newspapers yesterday.
Yeah, I saw it.
In BNFT and so on. I need him to put, correct this thing quickly to sort of educate us on this, and then we'll move to our next topic. This is not one of the topics that we were planning to do, but I just thought once is here because of his finance background. It says the International Monetary Fund has projected Ghana's debt to GDP ratio. It will climb to 53.0% by the end of 2026, signaling a shift in the nation's fiscal trajectory. This forecast, unveiled during the 2026 spring meetings in Washington, D.C., represents a notable increase from 45.3% recorded in 2025. Now, while Ghana's economy has expanded to an estimated 1.4 trillion cedis, the IMF latest fiscal monitor report suggests that the post-debt restructuring pressures may temporarily offset recent gains in debt reduction. The IMF report did not offer a specific breakdown of the factors behind the projected rise. However, it notes that government debt and interest rate projections are based on a post-debt restructuring scenario.
Yeah.
This indicates that the figures reflect the new financial reality following the country's comprehensive debt overhaul. Ghana's debt stood at 61.8% of GDP in 2024, with a debt total of some 726.7 billion.
Yeah.
Now, by 2025, the ratio fell to 45.3% as total debt decreased to 641 billion cedis. The 2026 projections suggest a temporary reversal of that downward trend. I mean, is there cause to be concerned?
Not actually.
Okay. Tell us why.
First of all, let me say that a 53% debt to GDP ratio is still within the sustainable means.
Okay.
So the IMF has an African benchmark where they're saying that African countries should do between 50 to 60% debt to GDP to remain sustainable, on a sustainable path. So even if Ghana reaches a debt to GDP of 53%, it is still within a sustainable means. However, let's look at what they said and why it is not supported by data. The IMF is a caution, I think so. If you read the IMF fiscal monitor that they did at the IMF spring meeting, currently there's a spring meeting ongoing, and then so it was not only for Ghana. They have made that projection at their spring meeting for the entire globe. So people have gone to isolate the portion relating to Ghana. So I want us to tackle the Ghana, and I'll look at the African average. So I'm saying that this is a caution. And why are they? You look at the issues. In fact, I had something like that when I was coming. So if you look at the 53% debt to GDP forecast for 2026 from the IMF fiscal monitor, look at what they are attributing to it and why Ghanaians should not be concerned with it, because currently the trajectory that we have taken for 2025, if it's sustained, I don't think that we need to be worried. The second issue too is that, look, Moro, the IMF themselves projected that Ghana was supposed to end the year with 60% debt to GDP ratio in 2025.
Yes.
This was their projection. But later, they revised the projection and said that Ghana had outperformed the IMF targets. So they were saying that we would do debt to GDP ratio of 60% in 2025, but we ended the year with 45%. And they admitted Ghana outperformed all matrices that were set by the IMF. And the tool was just fiscal consolidation, spending within your means. And they have repeated it. Now, they are cautioning government of Ghana to resist the temptation of the post-debt restructuring. You know why? One, this is what the IMF said. The post-debt restructuring baseline. The IMF explicitly states its projections are based on post-debt restructuring scenario. This means that after the restructuring, we have deferred a lot of our debt into the future. Our economy has become robust. People will offer us low interest rates. So there's a temptation for government to go and borrow at lower interest rates.
Okay.
That's what they are just telling you.
Right.
So this means lower interest rate after restructuring, extended maturities. In simple terms, the restructuring reduces pressure, but does not eliminate debt accumulation. So what they are saying is that expected new borrowing plus fiscal deficit, even with Ghana's reform, Ghana is still expected to, one, run moderate fiscal deficit, borrow, especially domestically through bond issuance. Debt rises when net borrowing is greater than your repayment and then go. What they are simply telling you is that because of the debt restructuring program that has been implemented successfully, there is some level of decline in debt. If you look at the Ghana's GRR now, it's about 10.06. So multilateral companies and bilateral relations, if we return to the capital market, there's a likelihood that Ghana will be borrowing at lower rates. So any government...
And by GRR, you mean the Ghana reference rate?
Yes. And any government with the number of social contracts that we made with the people of Ghana, if you are getting money at lower interest rate, the temptation to return to borrowing is high. So the IMF has costed all our social projects. And they've realized that for us to finance this, we may need to what? Borrow, because there's an appetite to borrow. But what the IMF don't know is that, or they've forgotten is that, all these projects are ongoing through domestic bond issuance. And they are not debt accumulation. They are simply what we call debt buybacks. So you have a maturing domestic bond that you are expected to pay tomorrow. Then you say, okay, let me borrow today. It was already a debt you were supposed to pay, but it's matured. But you might not have the fiscal cash because you have other competing needs that you want to satisfy. Then you say, okay, then let me borrow today because the economy is favorable. Let me borrow that money today, pay that debt, then defer the new debt into the future. That's what they call debt buybacks.
Right.
Meaning that you are not adding any new debt. You are doing debt swaps. So government is not increasing our public debt, but they are doing debt buybacks or swaps.
Is that the same as smart borrowing?
Smart borrowing.
Okay.
Meaning that instead of
they're borrowing cheaper
to pay
offset a more expensive
debt.
Right.
And then you defer this current debt into the future.
Right.
So the IMF statement in the nutshell is just telling us that be cautious of the appetite
because
now.
The temptation is very strong.
And also, we are exiting the program.
Yeah.
And they have done their African baseline. Normally, when countries exit IMF program, there's a temptation to return to what they were doing before they joined the program.
Oh, so does that explain why, does that explain why just a few days ago we had the president say that Ghana, the president met the Eastern Regional House of Chiefs and made a statement that government would still stay the course.
Yes.
They say fiscal discipline.
Yes. Look, if you don't do that... It was
just yesterday.
If you don't do that, you return to fiscal deficit. And when you are doing fiscal deficit, it means that your expenditure is more than your revenue.
Yeah.
How do you finance that deficit? Either you do through taxes, of which you and I know that Ghana citizens already feel overtaxed. So the other option, or which is the easier way, is to go the route of borrowing. So if you continue doing fiscal deficit, currently we have a fiscal surplus of 1.6%. But if you go through the deficit, it means that you need to go to the capital market to borrow to finance that. And that is the temptation that the IMF don't want us to go. So people watching us should not be scared that the IMF said this means it's a collapse of our fiscal policy. No, the IMF is just cautioning that post the debt restructuring program and the exit of its program, government should resist the temptation. And I was just citing you, look, if you look at the IMF projection for 2025, they previously projected Ghana around 60 to 66% debt to GDP ratio. You and I know that Ghana achieved, 45%. Huge outperformance by 15 to 20%. So if, based on our performance in 2025, it will clearly tell you that government is deviating much from the IMF own projection. And the second issue too is that they projected that Ghana was supposed to grow around 4%.
Right.
In fact, that was what even informed the finance minister to put the growth of 2025 at 4, if you remember.
Yes.
And I heard those days, the conversation was that if MPP in a difficult situation that we described could grow the country at 5.3%,
Okay.
why is a research government or Abraham Papa government is coming to grow the economy at 4? But we ended the year at 6.3.
Right.
So yes, projections are guides, but they are not sacrosanct. And Dr. Atuforsen has demonstrated that he can deal with that. But related to this issue, you remember they have also suggested that
Right.
Our current depreciation, you know, if you follow for the past 2 weeks, there has been some level of depreciation in our currency. But what they forgot was that this decline is not as a result of overexposure to our forex. It simply suggests demand of FX. And why? If you know accounting very well, March, April, May are the periods where dividends are declared for companies.
Right.
After audited financial statements are done.
Right.
So this is a time for reparation of profits. So all non-controlling interest or controlling interest from offshore, outside Ghana, this is the time they are expecting their dividend. And you cannot pay them dividend in our functional currency, Ghana cedis. You pay them the dividends with their forex, which is the dollars or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that this current depreciation that we are seeing, this is not as a result of a collapse of our performance.
Right.
It is just a system where we are saying that this is the time where the demand for FX by international corporations are exceeding the supply at the moment, because currently they are doing profit and dividend reparations to their owners. And I think that it is normal if you check our trajectory between February, March, April, May, always has some slight depreciation because of this tendency. So I think that Minister of Finance should also look at it to make sure that we have adequate buffers and forex, so that when this period come, there will always be foreign exchange to give them to under that
There's
protection.
another issue which has come up. But I want to bring in, and I want you to.
Can I respond?
Yeah, no, sure. I'll let you come in. But before you come, I want you to consider this. That I saw a story in today's Daily Gist, whose managing editor is the former managing editor of the Daily Guide, and that's Fortuna Limi. And there's a story in today's Daily Gist that says that Atuforsen sabotaging ministers. It comes with a question mark. No cash syndrome hits ministries. I'll read that story, and then when Mr. Titus Glover is done, I'd want to pick your thoughts on that. But it says there's mounting economic. The story is by one Issa Olegor. Mounting economic frustration among Ghanaians is increasingly being linked to the stringent fiscal controls introduced by Finance Minister Kais. And I'm reading the story because of what you said about the fiscal controls.
Yeah.
Introduced by Finance Minister Kais Latofos, a policy direction that is not only reshaping government spending, but also intensifying an internal power struggle within the Democratic and the NDC, with the Minister for Education, Haruna Idrisu. Across markets, trading centers and small businesses, a common complaint is emerging: money is not circulating. Traders say customers can no longer afford basic goods, while business owners report declining sales and reduced purchasing power. From food vendors to spare parts dealers, many describe an economy where demand has slowed sharply, leaving goods sitting idle and incomes shrinking. These economic hardships are increasingly being tied, rightly or wrongly, to what insiders describe as an aggressive cash control regime at the Finance Ministry. Though officially framed as fiscal discipline, the reality on the ground is being interpreted by critics as a deliberate restriction of funds across ministries, departments, and agencies. At the center of the policy, it says government spending tightened, the economy feels the shock. At the center of the policy is a directive requiring that all public procurement receive prior approval from the Finance Ministry, popularly framed as no commencement certificates, no procurement, rooted in the amended public financial management laws. The above is intended to curb waste, prevent inflated contracts, and ensure value for money. While the Finance Minister is neck deep in the award of big push multi-billion-dollar contracts under the road infrastructure, the same thing cannot be said about other MDAs as they struggle to get basic items as stationery for operations. Some state agencies that are self-financing and are liquid had got their monies cash out, The finance minister has swept all the funds under the claim that he needs money to pay maturing loans. Difficult agencies may get presidential reprimand for them to free their money to autoforcing. According to daily gist sources, the recent agitations by government workers, particularly teachers, were as a result of squeezing of financial allocations to the agencies and the ministries with no budgetary support to pay the recently recruited staff, particularly teachers. The unpaid teachers, some of them have been working for about 18 months with no pay, cannot long bear the pain, and therefore march to the ministries. I'll get your thoughts on that, but I want to bring Tatos. The IMF projection.
Moro, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that's point of correction. Okay. We bequeath you with a growth rate of 5.7, not 5.3. So go and check your records very well.
Debt to GDP?
Absolutely.
Not debt to GDP. It's talking about growth.
No, you're talking about growth. I was talking
Economic
about debt to
growth.
GDP.
Borrowing. They started borrowing right from after this government came to office. On the 10th of January, through treasury bills, domestic borrowing, they borrowed 8.07 billion, 17 January 2025, 8.83 billion, January 2024, 8.16 billion, 31st January, 7.99 billion, February 7, 7.60, on and on and on, to a total of 59.68 billion. This was borrowed. But you see, borrowing per se, and when you look at these, there were three key things that they are using this borrowing. One, to pay salaries. Two, to finance budget operations. And three, the rollover debts. Borrowing per se is not bad, but what do you use the borrowing for?
Is what is
I
more
remember
important.
when they were in opposition, they were saying that we borrowed to pay compensation and consumption. You recall a few weeks ago, Atu was addressing
Labor.
Was it labor?
Yeah, it was labor.
When they said they have to go and borrow 17 billion cedis to pay government compensation.
Yes.
I thought they said the economy was strong.
Oh.
The economy was doing well. If the economy was doing,
that's the issue people in this
can
proper
I
context.
finish, please?
Let him
when you were
finish.
talking, can I finish? When you tell us your economy is booming, it's doing so well. Well, from that, I keep telling you that this, the theory of the NEC is practicing the economy. I don't get the head and tail of it. I don't get it at all. As we speak now, my brother, we are told that according to the statistical service, the inflation has dwindled to 3.2. Am I right?
Yeah.
Good. The CD and dollar has been stabilized. Am I right?
Yeah.
And we must sing some reflections in the lives of the people. President Mama on the campaign platform made reference to one of the American president or something. When they were talking about other things, then he said, talk about the economists to pay.
Oh.
You remember what that statement he made?
Yeah.
So I want to draw the president's attention to this very statement. When you tell us the inflation is dwindled, CD dollar stabilized, it must reflect in our pockets. Maybe he's sitting here, you see, he doesn't pay utility tariffs.
I'm not Yusuf though.
I'm sorry, sir.
No problem.
Forgive me.
Yes.
Maybe he's been getting some money somewhere that the utility bills that he's paying, he doesn't feel it in his pocket. The tariffs that we are paying is not reflected in the salaries that they are paying public sector workers. It's so expensive. Okay, that is key. Number two, you talk about releases. When the minority were doing the debates on the the budget, when you look at the projected and the releases that the finance minister was supposed to release to these agencies and ministries, it fell below 50% because he doesn't want to spend. He's holding on to expenditure to control inflation. When you do that, it affects the ground. Number two, they cut off the heads of cocoa farmers. When we assumed office on the 7th of January, the price of cocoa per ton was hovering between 1,200 to 1,300 per ton. We never reduced their cocoa prices. We never did. But what did you do? Today, cocoa farmers are crying because you have reduced their income for every bag of cocoa, almost 1,000 Ghana cedis. And you said what? We should clap for you. As we speak now, I have nephews and nieces in Achimota school. They are paying PTA dues, 1,000 Ghana cedis, 500 Ghana cedis for feeding.
They're not supposed to pay.
You are paying. I have nephew who is there. Oh. The mother told me, 1,000 Ghana cedis in Achimota school, 500 cedis. These Easter holidays that they came, when they were going, they paid 500 Ghana cedis. And the average student in Achimota is over 3,000, 4,000. So what are we talking about? Again, look at the traders. The social media is so active today. I'm happy you are from the north. Look at how they are crying. Farmers have spent money, labor, pesticides to plant. God willing, they have good harvest. Today, a bag of maize has been dwindled from 1,000, 1,200 to almost 350 Ghana. Yet they cannot buy. You go to Salaga market, you go to Techima market, you go to Gra market, everybody is crying. Whether it is a curse on us, I can't tell. It is a serious matter that we need to talk about it. So long as you are not spending, because it will trigger and go to the base. I've been posting you some of these what do you call it? Commentaries that this market will huge sums of yam loaded all over the place. They are not buying. Where are they getting the money for? Because you have squeezed all the money from the system. Because you want to control inflation, to make your books look good. But when you go to the ground, my brother, Ataisa, maybe you live in Mass. So you are not on the ground. Your constituency.
I thought you said I'm from the north.
You live in Mass. So you don't know what you're talking about. Oh. So these are your economic indicators that
he's an NPO. He lives with the people. He knows.
Please, he's in Mass. And sometimes he comes down to Sandarugu and go up again. So he doesn't get the reality. His people are watching him. My brother, his people are watching him. So this matter that we talk about, these inflation indicators is improved. You see, when they're in power, some of these things, when they talk, you don't want to listen. But the reality will hit you on the face. It will expose you. You get what I mean? So clearly, something is not going well. I describe this as aphrodisiac economy. Because indeed, if this is really happening, we will not be getting all these feedbacks that the people use AI to generate what? Duty at the port. When did this start? In our time, we were not paying so much expensive duties at the port. Importers are crying. Customs agents are crying. And you sit here and you say, what? Please, I don't get it. So for them, we leave that for the people to judge us. But the cost of living as we speak now. When the bomb, I heard the president was saying that what? When we're saying that Russia-Ukraine war was affecting global supply chain, the president, but the kilometers from here to Ukraine was about 5,000 kilometers. And what has that got to do with us? And at the point when the prices was reducing, they say, hey, abampapaba. Now that it has changed, from here to Iran is about 9,000 kilometers. Now the president said, we should do what? We shouldn't blame him. Who blame him? Because you set the pace. We don't want to be part of that narrative that is not from him, but as a genius. Not at all. Because so long as we don't have any hand, we are going to remind him, okay, of what is happening. For this your economy, dear.
You've shifted your position?
Moro.
My position what?
The fact that external factors can have an impact.
No, when we were telling them the truth, they didn't buy it.
So why don't you stay in that same?
So what I'm saying is that we need to let Ghanaians know that when you scam, you use deceit to come to power, you'll be exposed. So that's what I'm telling you.
But have you shifted your position?
We have not.
Oh, okay.
We have not.
Moro.
All right.
We have
Moro.
not.
All right.
Please.
So yes, no cash syndrome.
No.
When you go, I'll come.
No. Oh.
When you
But
go,
to be fair,
I'll come.
No, you can come.
Yeah,
You can come. You can
Yeah, you
come.
can come. Why
When
not?
you rebut, I'll rebut.
No, that's fine.
So
Yeah, no, to be
one.
fair,
See,
yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
MPP communication team. But let me ask you, are you still contesting for the national organization?
I'm coming back.
Oh, okay.
Why you have a problem with it?
No. MPP
Maybe he wants to support you.
MPP communicators. If you don't find a way of tying them to topics, they run around everywhere. My senior brother has succeeded in boxing everything outside the scope.
What is scope?
No, he was talking about the economy. He was talking about the economy.
Please. In my submission, I already told you, what you read about domestic borrow of 53 billion, you are only proving what I said. I said that what the government has done successfully is that we are doing what we call debt swaps or buybacks. So what have you said essentially? That's what I was telling you. We are not doing debt accumulation, but we are doing debt buybacks or swaps. So it doesn't increase the net accumulation of the Ghana's public debt. And when it comes to debt, NPP should be the least to talk about it. Saying we borrow 17 billion to pay salaries. Look, Moro, from Nkrumah to President Mahama first term, Ghana have had 13 presidents. The combined impact of all of them, their borrowing, amounted to 120 billion Ghana cedis. Only President Akufo-Addo moved it to 726.7 billion after domestic restructuring. Inclusive of the restructuring, we would have been doing 836 billion Ghana cedis. Only President Akufo-Addo. This is the highest. In fact, President Akufo-Addo borrowing at a point led Ghana for the first time in our history, even under military regime, we never had it, a debt to GDP ratio of 104%. You people, as if you've been out of power for some 10 years. It is still fresh in our minds what you led this country through. Despite all this borrowing President Akufo-Addo did, despite all those things, they left us with a sinking fund of 0 and mortgaged all state agencies' inflows to borrow more. In fact, for the smart fiscal regimes that Dr. Tufosi introduced, Get Fund, NHIA, ESLA, and Kokobo Process would have all been to foreign companies. Government had to absorb it as part of central government debt. In fact, that is what led to the 45 billion debt increase in our public debt. Because we had to buy back those debts. This is the type of people that are now saying NDC borrowed domestically 53 billion Ghana cedis. Abba, you led us astray. In 8 years, you borrowed more than 13 presidents combined 6 times. You see, reminding Ghanaians of this sometimes is nostalgic. But the truth of the matter is that we have to call them out. The second issue is borrowing to pay salary, 17 billion. Look, even the 726.7 billion after restructuring, the total tax revenue that we were using to pay compensation was around 72%. If you collect all your total tax revenue in Ghana, you use 72% to pay salaries. That was the situation you kept us in. So MPP should be the last to talk about how to, whether borrowing or, look, you over-borrowed. Why did you run to the IMF? In 2015, you said the NDC ran to the IMF because of what we call policy credibility, if you remember. Not because we could not meet our needs. At that time, we could not get loans at concessionary rates. Government approached the IMF through the Century Consensus. We advised you in 2022 to go for IMF because we realized that you were performing badly. You took exchange rate from 4 cedis to 17 cedis. We told you go to the IMF. Inflation rate at that time was about 54%. Ghanaians could buy goods this morning and go back to the market in the afternoon. It has changed. You said no. The Apple bomb was e-levy. You went around this country with taxpayers' money to do town hall meetings explaining why the e-levy is the way forward. We advise you that it's a float concept. IMF money is float. You don't tax flows. Because one money can be in Moro's account, he will transfer to me, I'll transfer to my brother, I'll transfer to... That same money does not mean all the 4 of us has the money. It's one money floating all around. We said that is not a smart way of taxing. Number 2, we said that what services have you provided to tax that money? The communication companies tax us the 1% commission because they provide the platform.
Communication service tax.
So what do you provide? Meanwhile, at the end of the year, you charge them 25% corporate tax. So we said that's tax on tax. They didn't listen. The Aquamam didn't survive. They now approached the IMF at the time that Ghana was at its vulnerable stage. That is the legacy of the MPP. When Dr. Tufosi said he borrowed 17 billion to pay salaries, if you know governance structure, government has 4 ticket items. compensation, goods and services, capex, and then your statutory disbursement, and then you have your discretionary expenditure. When you allocate the resources, depending upon which one you prioritize, there will always be a deficit. So if he had mentioned salaries first, mentioned statutory items, it means that he would have said we borrow 17 billion to maybe do goods and services. It's just the arrangement. He was just trying to demonstrate why our local revenue that we are raising cannot meet these 4 ticket items. It was just itemization. So because he used compensation, he could have said, if you take compensation, if you take statutory payment, if you take goods and services, capex, we have to borrow money to do it. You would have still come here and said capex. So it doesn't mean that we borrow 17 billion to pay compensation. That's not the meaning, if you have followed him. The third issue is releases. That's the question. As a member of the Finance Committee, we met ministry, department, and agencies that appear before us. I can tell you, Dr. Atuforsen has released close to 82% releases in 2025. 82%. As for minorities say they are not releasing, we will not release the way you used to release. Meaning that anything the ministry, department, agencies bring to you, you approve and find money to. That's not the style that we are running. What is the concept of the commitment authorization? We are saying that for you to do any expenditure, commit the state, bear in mind that there's a line item meant for that expenditure. So people are not comfortable with that system because they want some level of arbitrariness and discretion on the part of the ministry, department, and agencies. That is a thing of the past. You cannot commit this state into reckless expenditure and you want taxpayers to fund it. And let me give you an example. During the special audit that was done by the Minister of Finance and Deloitte and Auditor General, I don't know, Moro, if you followed it. Yeah. We have seen that some IPCs were raised and sent to Minister of Finance without even Minister of Roads and Highways knowing, if you had followed the discussion over there. Right. These are type of reckless expenditures that we said, no. For you to commit this state into any contractual obligation, make sure that you approach the Minister of Finance, which is the custodian of Ghana's public purse, to make sure that it has a specific budget line for it. People will not be comfortable. That's change management. So, point to us one thing that we said we will spend. And let me give you the shocking thing. Government allocated 13 billion Ghana cedis for big push. Minority came and said, as at the time they were doing the press conference, government has only released 7 billion. When in that same document, that expenditure, government was saying that it's a multi-year expenditure. So when you are capturing, you don't capture the total amount of money you allocated for that project. You capture what is utilized within a year. This is just normal accounting. So what exactly are they saying government is not releasing money for? The last one. That's what I'm saying, that he has found a way of boxing in everything. Cocoa farmers. Moro, let's ask our senior brother. The time you were paying cocoa farmers $3,200, hey, Ghana said, well, how much was cocoa sold in the international market? How much was it sold? Over 10,000. So to the cocoa farmer this morning watching me, if somebody sold your cocoa beans to investors for 10,000 Ghana cedis and in return give you 3,000, what is the percentage? 30%. And now somebody is selling it for 2,850 and giving you 2,587. That over 90% given to the cocoa farmer. And you are here saying that your time you were paying 3,000. Forgetting to mention that you were selling it for 10,000. Why were you giving them 3,000? That is the hypocrisy we are talking about. And to this, because they want to exploit the sensitivity of people, they move around cocoa farms, peddling falsehoods, saying that President Mahama has used the cocoa money to buy 4 private jets for his brother and himself. That is the level of politics that they are now engaged in. And I'm saying this, you cannot subject Cocoa Board. In fact, Moro, it will shock you. Right. In 2023, the board of Cocoa Board approved 489 million Ghana cedis for cocoa rules. Approved. If you know how public sector works, departments and agencies that are governed by governing councils and boards, the highest decision-making body of those are the boards. Board of Cocoa Board approved 489 million Ghana cedis for road improvement programs under cocoa rules. They exceeded the year without any revision to their budget to 4 billion Ghana cedis. Cocoa rose. That was a special audit. The last time I came here, I brought the special audit that was done by the Attorney General. That stated that the cocoa rose was a syndicate for corruption. Is that the level of economy that you want us to do? You made Cocoa Board became bankrupt. Cocoa Board, you sign onto a contract where you are saying that you collect the money from people with the funds, irrespective of how much cocoa is traded at the international market, you sell it to them at $2,661. That is what you did. When at the time, we said, if we're in government, without this contract, cocoa farmers would have been getting close to 6,000 to 7,000. It was based on the fact that cocoa prices at the international market was high. So don't compare this, don't try to take on the minds of people to exploit the sensitivity of people because cocoa prices were slashed. Check the African average in our sub-region, whether they have done same or not. You cannot give what you don't have. You had mortgaged close to 53,000 tons of our cocoa to foreigners at 2,661 in your rollover contracts. And you have the audacity now to say that President Mahama reduced cocoa prices. Moro, let me ask you, we are all brothers from the north. He is also a northerner.
Okay.
Let me tell my senior, let's do this at every time. You have two household actors. You have the farmers, and then you have the consumers. More is that not it?
Yep.
If bags of rice, for example, is sold at 200 Ghana cedis, it will directly affect the farmer.
Right.
What about the consumer? Why are you doing your analysis one-sided? Consumers are now buying bags of maize and rice at cheaper prices. Who do we defend at this stage? Is it the consumer or the farmer? You thought when you were selling it at 800 Ghana cedis, people could buy. According to the Ghana Statistical Survey multi-poverty dimension report that came in October 2024, you had pushed 12 million Ghanaians into multi-poverty dimension, meaning they could not afford 3 square meals and they could not afford basic needs of lives. So are you telling me that we should have maintained 800 Ghana cedis as bag of rice when the average Ghanaian cannot afford a bag of rice? Is that the logic we should get? So I'm saying that this type of to exploit farmers, what you are forgetting is that people who are purchasing bags of maize for 200 or 300 Ghana cedis are mad at you because your time. I remember people you don't expect as an MP, people you don't expect to come and tell you that today they haven't eaten. They used to come to us as parliamentary candidates. Today, tomorrow, if you have 1,000 Ghana cedis as a landlord, do you know you can buy 5 bags of maize?
Right.
Some people need 5 bags of maize for months. That same amount could have bought 1. But today you could buy 5. So yes, government is addressing the issue on the farmers because what is driving this and why they are saying there is no market. Let me tell you why they are saying there is no market. I'm a farmer. I have close to 2,000 bags of maize myself. Okay. And I have rice. Let me tell you why there is no market. When you look at the cost of producing a bag of rice in Ghana,
before you go,
it's high.
To tell us why there's no market, we need to take a break. I beg you. Well, tell us why we need why people, and let us know what you think about it when we come back on Monday. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm saying that looking at the cost of producing a bag, in other countries, in Singapore and other countries, they can tell you that for you to produce a bag of rice or a bag of maize, this is how much you need to spend to achieve that bag of rice. So then you add your margin to it to get the profit you should expect at the end of the day.
Right.
Ghana, we don't have that rice statistics. So if you look at how much we cultivate an acre of land, last year was about 200 Ghana cedis per acre. You look at a bag of fertilizer, which was around 450 to 500 Ghana cedis. You looked at the back of the chemicals that we use for weedicides and all those things. When you sum up and the workers to even harvest, sometimes they take you 200 cedis per acre to harvest. There are a lot of expenditure that you incur in achieving the bags of rice. Now, when you spend all these monies and get the output, and then the market forces, because Ghana doesn't do price control. We are not in a fixed regime where President Mahama will go to the market and say, charge it at 200 Ghana cedis. And let me tell you also, it is not because people cannot sell, that's why they've reduced the price. No. It is the functions of the demand and supply forces. They all know the market conditions of our country. So you cannot outprice. If you overprice, this is a bag of rice or cereal market is what we call in economics perfect competitive market. buyers have perfect knowledge of what is going on, and they take decisions based on available information. So you cannot, they know that in Kumbungu market, a bag of rice is sold for 300. If you come to Taban and sell it for 600, they will switch to Kumbungu to buy the rice. So this is normal, perfect information that is available to consumers also. So it is the demand and supply forces that has created the price. Now, what is influencing producers here is the cost of production. That's why governments must deal with the issue of cost of production. And let me be honest with you, we buy rice and maize every day. Let nobody lie to you that people are not buying. We buy it every day. What people are rather doing, suppliers are rather doing, is hoarding. And if you look at seasonal flow in the past, when harvest comes early, it is normally cheaper. People go and buy in bulk and store in warehouses. So as you are approaching the new season, that time crops, those things are no more available for household. Then they bring it out and sell it at higher prices. That used to happen. But now, they cannot do that because you know we're about to start farming season in May.
Yeah.
Yet, people are still holding plenty stocks because they are waiting for, in finance also, demand, what factors that influence demand? There's something we call expectation of future increase in price. So they are thinking price of these things will increase in the future. But I used to advise them that it will not increase. Because if you look at the prevailing market conditions in Ghana, it does not necessitate to an increase in the commodity price.
Okay.
Publican AI at the port, GRA, under President Akufo-Addo, GRA, they did a report.
Please try
compliance. I will land in 2 minutes. Yes, they did a compliance audit, and they realized that declared values at the port, what was supposed to come to Ghana as total import volume was about 153 billion.
Okay.
Meanwhile, only 56 billion was recorded in the ICONS program.
Okay.
So I'm saying that there is a need for us to do something about it. I have on many occasions raised the issue of we could have done it in a phased approach, engaging more with stakeholders, and also the appeals processes can be expedited to make sure that concerns of people are addressed. Okay. But do you know that since we did this, nobody, it is only in the media, the appeals program that has been given, nobody has been able to challenge that he has been overpriced. Of course, when you introduce a new system, that we said that there has been issues of undervaluation. The idea of the AI is simple to make sure that we have consistent valuation.
Okay.
Now, nobody has brought us something to say that I bought these goods at the origin at this, and I was supposed to pay this duty, and this is how much you've given me. That is not what they are saying. What they are saying is that I used to pay this before the system. Now I'm paying this. You are paying this because of classification. Because we are saying that every goods has its own classification for you to charge the right duty. And that is why I tell you that the initial standoff that happened in the past, where all the stakeholders in the maritime industry declared a strike. Do you know, a few days afterwards, there was some level of backtrack from some of them. Because they were taken through the appeals process. And in fact, all those that made the press conferences and the strike declarations have all been taken through the appeals process. The Deputy Minister of Finance has engaged extensively. And I can tell you, appeals processes are yielding results. People are getting to know the truth behind it, and they know that is the way forward. You brought a digital platform. In fact, Dr. Baume in 2022 said that they have introduced, that was when he introduced the benchmark prices at the ports. He said that they are now doing a new AI, paperless, they complained of increase in prices at that time. I can pull you news items in 2022 where freight forwarders and Association of Exporters and Importers complained about increase in this as a result of the benchmark pricing. Okay. So it has always been the case. What we should rather do is to perfect the system to ensure that Ghana gets the right declared FOB prices that can determine the right values to be paid. Okay. At the end of the day, when those import duties are paid, it is for the development of this country.
All right.
And then war on Iran. I said 1 minute. I'll give you the rest of the time.
It's okay.
No, war on Iran.
No, you can't take all the time.
No, I'm not taking all the time.
Please.
No, the war on Iran. No, let the host. I beg you. He said the war on the Iran issue. No, I have to say something about it.
He started it.
So the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology Innovations is organizing the National AI Strategy launch at the Labadi Beach Hotel today, and yours truly, Metro TV, will bring it live here. So please don't go anywhere. watch the program and watch this launch and let us know what you think about it when we come back on Monday. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm saying that looking at the cost of producing a bag, you know, in other countries, in Singapore and other countries, they can tell you that for you to produce a bag of rice or a bag of maize, this is how much you need to spend to achieve that bag of rice. So then you add your margin to it to get the profit you should expect at the end of the day.
Right.
Ghana, we don't have that rice statistics. So if you look at how much we cultivate an acre of land, last year was about 200 Ghana cedis per acre. You look at a bag of fertilizer, which was around 450 to 500 Ghana cedis. You looked at the back of the chemicals that we use for weedicides and all those things. When you sum up, and the workers to even harvest, sometimes they take you 200 cedis per acre to harvest. There are a lot of expenditure that you incur in achieving the bags of rice.
I'm not PENDREAM TV. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.